Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's nice to see a few faces in the congregation here, and glad to. I'm sorry, I can't see you, but welcome to those of you who are watching us online as well this morning. I'm going to begin with a bit of a meditation, just thinking about what Shabbat means. And what this morning's service is, because we're really about to embark on a bit of a journey. We've come with as individuals with our own concerns, our preoccupations, our hopes, and Shabbat offers us the opportunity to link our lives with the lives of others, and indeed, as we go through the prayers with the generations of our people. I'd like to start with a bit of a morning meditation. The author of this is anonymous. I shall give thanks to God, who tests the heart when the morning stars sing together. Take good care of your soul. She is turquoise, agate, and jasper. Her light is like the light of the sun, like the light of 7 mornings. She was hewn from the throne of glory, sent to dwell in a desert land, to deliver it from flames and shed light on it in the morning. Awaken yourself, for every night your soul ascends on high to give account for her deeds to the maker of evening and morning. She can be found adorned with robe and diadem, like a bride bedecked continually each morning. The faithful one in trust will send her back in favor. None perish through the error of the Creator of evening and morning. Refresh your weary soul, your unique one, perfect and pure. If you do not keep your own soul alive, how will you merit the light of morning? I shall give thanks to God who tests the heart when the morning stars sing together. And we begin on page 117, with Matovu.
The words come from an exclamation of wonderment at the sight of the Israelites all being gathered together. And that still applies even if some of us are gathered on the internet. Matovu. Wani tefilati lecha, Adonai et ratzon, Elohim barov chesdecha, Elohim barov chesdecha, Aneini be'emet yishecha.
Let's read together on the bottom of page 117. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake, behold, a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. And on page 118, we continue with the morning blessings. And I think we'll do those sort of responsively, maybe also responsibly, and do the blessing formulation in Hebrew and then the last bit of it in English. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, for eyes to see.
Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, for clothes to wear. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, for the joy of freedom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, for the power to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, for providing for all our needs.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, for daily renewing our strength.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir shena me'enai. Yes, speaking of eyes, unituma me'afapai. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the blessing of sleep and the privilege of waking to a new day. And on page 119, we continue. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechulal b'fi amo, משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ויעבדיו, בשפחות וזמירות נגדל לך ונמליכך, מלכנו יחיד חי העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מחולל בתשבחות. Let's continue together. With the coming of day and night, I will enter the covenant of God, and when evening and morning depart, I will recite God's decrees. God Most High, you are my righteousness. You teach me goodness. You are the fountain of knowledge, the dwelling place of holiness, and the summit of glory. Eternal might and majesty are yours. I will choose whatever you teach me, gladly accepting your judgments. As soon as I move my hands and feet, I will praise your name when I go out, when I come in, when I lie down, and when I rise up. When I rest on my bed, I will sing your praise, and in the company of my friends, I will praise you with the words of my mouth. That little piece that we've just read comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. I looked it up to see the origin, so it's quite a nice thing, I think. And we continue now, Psalm 92.
Moshe Leon HaShabbat Tov L'Hadol Adonai U'Lazamer L'Simcha Elyon U'Lazamer L'Simcha Elyon Kisi Maktani Adonai V'Po'alecha Na'aseh Tzadik atama yifrak, tzadik atama yifrak, tzadik atama yifrak, tzadik atama yifrak. Keres balvanon yizkei, keres balvanon yizkei, keres balvanon yizkei. Keres balvanon yizkei, keres balvanon yizkei, keres balvanon yizkei.
And we rise, the bottom of page 121, v'yishtabach. Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu, ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol v'ha'kadosh b'shamayim u'v'aretz. Ki lecha na'eh Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, shir u'shvacha halel v'zimra, barachot v'choraot, me'ata v'yad olam, baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'shirei zimra. And at the top of page 135, join in the Baruch Hu, the call to public worship.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Amorach. Baruch Adonai Amorach le'olam va'ed.
You can resume your seats. On top of page 136, we have a prayer that really talks about the cycle of time, the cycle of the seasons, and especially, the darkness and light, the daily cycle. And so we're going to just sing the first little bit of that.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzei orei choshech osei shalom uvarei et hakol. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzei orei choshech osei shalom uvarei et hakol.
My friend and colleague Mark Solomon has written a wonderful prayer that continues on from this. The way that our Siddur is constructed really is that we have an opening blessing phrase and then Chatimah, and all of the parts in the middle. It was meant to be that the service leader was supposed to extemporize on the theme of the opening blessing and the Chatimah. So probably the best ones kind of got kept, and the less adept service leaders, their versions got left by the wayside. But I'm going to add a new one into this, something written by Mark Solomon. You form light and create darkness. As time is a tapestry of day and night, our lives are a weaving of light and dark. Like a slow dawn, we discover who we are. Like twilight, we linger in doubt and anxiety. We endure nights of rejection by others and ourselves, and bright days of acceptance and joy in who we are. You make peace and create everything. We look around and see a world of endless change and diversity. As we rejoice in the variety of creation, we come to accept our own uniqueness. As we delight in our own uniqueness, we appreciate all human diversity and live at peace with ourselves and with all creation. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot. We continue together, the second paragraph on page 136. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. And we stand now for the Shema.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. You shall love your God with all your mind, with all your strength, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way. When you lie down, when you rise up, bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Ani Adonai Elohechem, I am your God.
We can resume our seats.
Klan tizkaru, עשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Let's continue together. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established, and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are a sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. There's a midrash about mi chamocha. If you look closely, it's like almost the same words, isn't it? Mi chamocha and then mi kamocha. And the midrash is that as our Israelite ancestors, they sort of went in faith into the water, right? And so they're singing mi chamocha, and then the water starts mounting and mounting and mounting. And then eventually they're kind of choking mi kamocha because the water's beginning to fill their mouths, and then the waters part. I think that's a lovely little midrash. We continue on the bottom of page 139.
To Israel, Kuma Bezrat Israel, Koleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kadosh Israel, Baruch Atah Adonai, God Israel, God Israel, Israel.
On the top of page 140, we rise for the tefillah, the Amidah, the standing prayer.
Adonai Sephatai Tivtach, Ufi agi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imachot, v'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Achava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Machayei Meitim Atah, Rab L'Hoshia, Mashiv Haruach U'Morid HaGeshem, Mazriach HaShemesh U'Morid Chatal.
Mechalchel chaim b'chesed, mechayei meitim b'rachamim rabim, somek noflim v'rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emunato lishenei afar, mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, u'midom elach, melech meimit u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua.
V'ne'aman atah v'chachayot meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaMeitim.
Nekadesh et shemcha ba'olam, Hashem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom, kagatuv al yad nevi'echa, al yad nevi'echa. Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai Tzevaot, Melech haaretz, Kavodo.
Kivodo malei olam.
Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimchomo.
Mimkomecha malkeinu tofia, v'timloch aleinu, ki machachim anachnu lach.
Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Iktion, Do'ado, Hallelujah. L'do'ado, 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 nagid galecha, l'do'ado, 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 nagid galecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, krushatka, krushatka, nakdish, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, krushatka, krushatka, nakdish, l'do'ado, 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 nagid gad lecha, l'do'ado, 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 nagid gad lecha, l'shivchacha Eloheinu, pipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed, l'shivchacha Eloheinu, pipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed.
Resume our seats. El HaKadosh. We continue on the bottom of page 142. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
Yismachu on page 143 to a new tune, which I haven't quite got yet, so I can guarantee it's a new tune. Yismachu b'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg. Yismachu b'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat. Makadashei, Makadashei Shavi, Kulam Yisbo Yitango Mituecha, Yismachu b'malchutecha Shomrei Shabbat, Yismachu b'malchutecha Shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg, Yismachu b'malchutecha Shomrei Shabbat. Ratzita bo v'kidashto hemdad yamim oto karata zechel ma'aseh b'reishit Yismachu b'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat Yismachu b'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat.
Our God, let's continue together. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Say Adonai Eloheinu Ba'alecha Israel
We continue together. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, our God, as you are the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due.
Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom. Aleinu al kol yoshvei tevel. Sim shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim.
Baruch atah Adonai, Osei HaShalom. Take a few moments now for our own thoughts and prayers.
Say shalom bimroma. Say shalom aleinu. Al kol Yisrael. Al kol bnei Adam. Say shalom. Say shalom. Shalom aleinu. Al kol Yisrael. Say shalom, say shalom, shalom aleinu, v'chol yoshvei tevel. Say shalom, say shalom, shalom aleinu, v'chol Yisrael. Say shalom, say shalom, shalom aleinu, v'chol Yisrael. Say shalom. Say shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol yoshvei tevel.
We're going to continue now with our Torah service on page 490. Give us both a second to get all of our bits together. Vince is going to be actually chanting it. So page 490. Hachel et ha'am, assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear and learn to revere the Eternal One, your God, and observe faithfully all the precepts of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere the Eternal One, your God. Please rise.
وحاررنينو بتوراتך ודבק לבנו במצוותיך ויחד לבבינו ביחדה ולירא את שמך.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai Iti, Oneromema, Shemo Yachtal.
Echad Adonai Agadol Adagora, Vatiferet, V'anetzach, V'chahol. Ki kol b'shamayim u'aretz, Ki kol b'shamayim u'aretz. V'chad Adonai amalecha, v'hanitnesei v'chol erosh.
I'm not putting it on the chair's dusty.
Ooh.
A few little details here. Where's the sheet you want me to read from? Thank you.
It's not an easy portion to find, but the clue is it's preceded by a portion containing the Shema. And Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And traditionally, and on this scroll as well, the top bar of the Dalet that finishes Echad is huge, huge. So I know where today's portion is by reference to where that giant great Echad is. So let's find it.
I see it from here.
Okay.
I see
you
the
want to read
Echad.
it? You want to
No.
read it?
You have to find what you're reading.
Can you hold the right roll, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Found it.
From here.
I will. Tamod Yehudit Rachel bat Abraham v'Sarah Harav al HaTorah. Lost it again. There we go.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We're going to do this verse by verse. It's Deuteronomy Chapter 8, beginning at verse 11 and just going through to verse 14. And Janet will read a verse, and while she's reading it, I'll try to remember what the chanting melody is.
So
verse 11.
Okay. Take care lest you forget the eternal your God and fail to keep God's commandments and rules and laws which I enjoin upon you today. Let's just set this in context because this is at the very end of, we're in Deuteronomy now, and this is like Moses' exit speech, as it were. And so he's just reminding everybody to, remember.
Yishomer lecha pein tishkach et Adonai et Elohecha levilti shomor mitzvotav umishpatav v'chuchotav asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom.
When you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses to live in,
Pein tochal b'savata uvatim tovim tivnei v'yashavta.
and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered.
Ucharaha v'tzonecha yirbayun chesed v'zahav yirbay lecha v'chol asher lecha yirbeh.
Beware, lest your heart grow haughty, and you forget the Eternal One, your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage.
V'ram levavecha v'shichachta et Adonai Elohecha hamotziecha me'eretz Mitzrayim מבית עבודים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam netah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Shall we do Hekbar now? Yeah. Ooh.
This is not so good to pull it
Yeah,
past there
yeah. But then
so
it's,
that you've got the fulcrum.
yeah. Okay. Romenu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishacharu l'hakodsho. Romenu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishacharu l'hakodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
Which way this goes. And now it's just strong. Put those two together. We should be singing something like Al Shlosh Devarim. Vince sits there holding the scroll.
We can't go anywhere, can
No, he can't. We're going to rise for, well, actually, he's going to rise as well for some community blessings. So please do stand up. And we're on page 493. And we say together, Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, acceptance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel who enter synagogues to pray and to give aid to those in need. May the Holy One, to whom all praise is due, hear their prayers and them to fulfill their aspirations for good. And we're going to add a slightly different prayer today. I'm partly using our experimental Siddur. There's a prayer in here. Well, I'll read it and then I'll explain. Eternal God, our Creator and Liberator, as we celebrate Shabbat together and rejoice in our many blessings, we pause to remember your children across the world whose lives are blighted by the curses of poverty and persecution. We think of the many millions across the globe driven from their homes by tyranny, violence, and destitution, risking their lives as they make their escape in the hope of finding refuge and security elsewhere. Eternal teacher of your people Israel, as the children and grandchildren and descendants of refugees, aware of your teachings of justice and our sacred obligations towards a stranger, we express our commitment before you now to open our hearts and our hands and our communities to welcome those in need of refuge and to do what we can to contribute to the alleviation of their suffering. And let us say, Amen. Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizgav Shemo levado.
Odolet v'shamayim v'yarem keren le'amo tehila l'chol hasiga l'fnei Yisrael am karov. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel in time to come, says the Eternal One. I will put my teaching within them and engrave it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall anyone need to teach a friend or a neighbor to know me, for they all shall know me, young and old alike.
Ashirenu Adonai Elecha L'nashua Areish Yameinu Akedem Areish Yameinu
You can resume your seats. I will explain why I chose to read the prayer that I did. Some of you may have noted that there's a new borders and nationality bill that's been proposed. Yeah, some of you have clearly noticed. And it's actually quite a quite a dreadful thing. If you've been following what's going on in the news, one of the sections of it would very potentially make the work that the RNLI does in rescuing people, it may actually turn that into a criminal act. Yeah. I'm going to be on BBC Live tomorrow morning with a few other people, something like about 9:35, talking about those who are coming by boat and the potential changes to our immigration laws, which will actually... I actually don't know, because I've been trying to work this out while I was talking to the guy from the BBC, and I could hardly hear him because it was blowing an absolute gale down in Brighton. I was inside, and there was a espresso machine going off in my ear, so I couldn't hear him then. So then I walked outside, and everything, it was just blowing a gale, and things were flying around, and the chairs were tipping over, and stuff was flying off the roofs. So I'll know more today, because I have to do a sound check with them at somewhere between 2 and 5 today. But it's there's a few faith leaders who are going to be talking about what, different faith approaches to this. So, Deuteronomy, Devarim, the book of Torah that we're now in, as I've already said, is basically a retelling of all of Torah. It was written at a much later time than the other books of Torah, and it's cast as Moses' final words. Really, before his death, it's possibly the longest deathbed speech that's ever been written. And it refers back to all that the Israelites have been through in their journey from slavery in Egypt through their time in the wilderness, and as they are now preparing to enter their promised land. The title of the parsha this week comes from the second word in it, ekev. And though it's often translated as if, its literal meaning is heel. So even in this word and the name of this parsha, we get this image of journeying, because what do you do when you walk? First goes down your heel and the rest of your foot follows on, right? So we've got that image right at the very beginning. And in this section of ekev that Vince just read, the Israelites are cautioned not to forget all that they have been through and all that they have learned from it when they are settled and prosperous. And who can blame Moses for this reminder? After all, there were all those examples of people pining for the food of Mitzrayim, for their life there, completely forgetting their slavery, it seems. There's also the incident of the golden calf. Moses leaves them for a period of time, and panic ensues, with them seemingly forgetting what Moses had gone to do on their behalf. So who can blame him for cautioning them to remember? They don't seem to have been very good at it. Memory is important in Judaism. To remember, zachor, appears again and again in Torah and in Jewish teaching. So much so, it's often said that Jews don't have history. Instead, we have memory. It's easy to forget, as Torah shows us again and again. And it's probably just as easy for us as it was for our Israelite ancestors. Easy to forget the promises we make to ourselves and to others. To forget the reality of past times, which may not really have been that good. To forget what we may have learned through adversity once it is gone. Forget those who have stood by us, perhaps even to forget who we are. For the Israelites, the journey through the wilderness was a long one, and definitely not an easy one. There were many lessons to be learned. They eventually learned to work together by building a portable tabernacle. They slowly seemed to become less afraid of where they were going. We too have just finished a journey, one through a pandemic. It wasn't 40 years, only 16 months, but sometimes it may have seemed a lot longer. And it wasn't an easy one for most of us. Like the ancient Israelites, we wandered around at times, perhaps not actually physically, but certainly I think emotionally, seemingly lost, trying to adjust to the changes thrust upon us. The signposts and rhythm of life we had known, such as journeying to workplaces, such as being with work colleagues, visits, outings, even joining here together as a congregation, travel, these all vanished. Even the very routine elements of our lives, such as grocery shopping, seemed to be dramatically altered. We buried people along the way. And at times, I'm sure most of us lost sight of the possibilities in our lives as we became focused on mundane matters like buying food, obtaining masks, and other things we probably never imagined we would do. Perhaps we also hearkened back to what we called normalcy, and like the Israelites, perhaps created in our minds a rosier and easier past than was the reality. With so much focus on what we couldn't do, it was easy to lose track of what we could do. It could seem quite difficult to find possibilities in the reality into which we were thrust by a virus. I'm sure we all learned some lessons during that time and changed in ways we had not anticipated and which we may only now begin to fully appreciate. I know I did. This is now about to become a very personal sermon. I became more willing to take risks with people, to take the first step, to get to know someone, or to organize a meeting, to reach out, even without knowing the reception I would get. Somehow the potential of rejection became less important than the possibility of providing useful support to someone and perhaps building a friendship. Well, I've always been a bit of a carpe diem person, but I think I tried harder over the last year because I was less sure that the opportunity would present itself again. Being unsure of what might happen next, I went out when I was allowed to. I messaged people that I hardly knew, but got to know better. I watched their online shows. I just jumped into situations that I might have previously held back from, despite wishing I dared to get involved. I've met a lot of interesting people, and during the last few months, I've been inspired by the lyrics of a song called Strong, which is one often sung by one of my favorite drag queens, Mrs. Moore, John Moore. It begins, "This black hole has swallowed me whole," but later on continues with these words, "Don't be afraid to dance in the flames. No matter what the odds are, be a little brave." And I was. Did things always go to plan? No. Did I sometimes get a bit burnt around the edges? Yes, I did. But it was worth it. I made some wonderful friends during this time, which may seem a bit unusual to say, given that much of the last 16 months, I, like everyone else, was pretty much stuck at home. I reached out, and some reached back, sometimes in very unexpected ways, such as expressing an interest in Judaism, which is, of course, how we've ended up with Daniel Bates, also known as Baroness Mary Gold, joining us from Cardiff. The very wonderful Caravan Park, who has become what I can only describe as chosen family, and whose sofa I was sleeping on only night before last, sings a song called For Good, whose lyrics contain these words. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn. And we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. And that's something I've discovered, I think, even more over the last 16 months than ever before, how much I've learned from people who've touched my lives, from congregants who I've really missed, and from congregants who are willing to join us on some of the interesting expeditions. Thanks, Philip and Sandra. You know, and I'm guessing that I'm maybe not the only one that has begun to value personal relationships more because we had to work harder to have them. And I hope we don't forget that lesson. Rabbi Shefa Gold suggests the Torah portion in Ekev gives meaning to the difficulties of our journey, which means we come to know the depths of our own hearts and there find the gift of being human. Our hearts hold the key to making all our life into a blessing. May this be God's will. Before we do move to our closing prayers, I realize I have been very remiss in welcoming everybody who's online. Craig, have you got any idea who's actually out there so we can welcome them as well? Great.
We've got Mara.
Lovely.
Shabbat Shalom, Mara, Deborah, Sarah, Michelle, Tina, and Jill. Those are the people who have commented online.
And there's probably others that have yet to comment. So we continue now with the Aleinu on page 520 as we rise. 520.
Aleinu l'shabek l'adon hakol, l'ateit g'dula rotzeh b'reishit, Hashesem cholcheinu liached et shemo, v'gor aleinu lahamlik malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehu notei shamayim v'yosed haaretz, u'moshe v'yikaro b'shamayim mimal, u'shchinatu zo v'gavhei maromim. Hu Eloheinu einod, et malkeinu efesu lato, כך כתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, והארץ מתחת
And so our hope, Almighty God, is that all peoples abandon their empty worship of human bigotry and cease the blasphemy of calling on your name to justify oppression and hatred. Speedily turn our hearts to you and soften our human arrogance and make the lives of all people a source of honor to your glorious name. For your rule is meant to make all your creation a reflection of your glory.
ונאמר, וחי אדוני למלך על הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד,
O Shema, O Shema, O Shema Echad.
The growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, and that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been is half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life and rest in unvisited tombs. We don't seem to have any community yard sites this week, so I'm going to ask if anyone online has anyone they would like to name, to please put the names up, and we'll give a few minutes for those to come up so that Craig can read them out if any are posted. And while he's looking, does anyone here have any names they would like to remember? As I look around the room. No. Silent. Okay. So we will continue with the Kaddish, because I'm sure that even though we haven't named any names out loud, each of us has those whose names we hold in our hearts. There are those who have died over the pandemic. We know that. We've all lost people. I was talking about refugees. There are constantly more deaths as people struggle to get somewhere safe. So for all of those, and for all of those for whom there was no one left to say Kaddish, we say together on page 524. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, b'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agalah v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach, v'olam l'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalach shmei d'kudashah b'riuchu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata ta'amiran b'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mrumah hu yaseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru. Amen. We can resume our seats. Are there any announcements?
Yep.
I was sure there were.
Announcement. Just to say thank you to Janet and Vince for leading us today, and all the times that you've stepped in when Renee's gone. You're such a brilliant to have you to rely on. And thank you for your sermon. You're talking about relationships and songs that inspired you. It brought to mind, this is on a personal relationship, a song, Everything I Do It For You, which was a big song here 30 years ago today. And I just wondered, do you remember what you were doing 30 years ago today?
I do remember what we were doing 30 years ago today. We were in the States getting married.
So I just wanted to say to you both, a very happy Pearl anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Visit.
Right. Craig,
Craig.
sorry, I have a question I wanted to ask. When did we decide that we were going to be anti-Zionist?
We're not. I just chose to read some different
Not
prayers.
to say our prayer for the state of Israel then. What was that decision based on?
Because I've kind of worked from this Siddur where there are a number of different prayers, and I chose three of the 6 because those are the ones I want to. I often do say the other one, but I was a bit conscious of time.
I'm sorry, I found it offensive.
So, well, I'm sorry.
That's a fair point.
Um,
Israel's important to us. I have a brother and family living out there. Every service I have ever been to, they have said a prayer for the state of Israel. And I think it's entirely inappropriate
well,
to take that position.
um,
I
I say, there's a selection here, so, yeah.
You can't pray
I
for the
chose-
state of Israel that I don't want to know.
I chose some
A
different
congregation I
ones
want to
today.
be a part of.
But it's not, that prayer is often said. I just chose to say some slightly different ones today and slightly different,
Yeah, so
order. And it wasn't-
Some morning decide we're not going to bother about the state of Israel.
no, I don't think that's it at all.
It's entirely inappropriate.
I don't think that was not what I was thinking of.
I'm sorry, no, and you probably didn't, but it's to me personally, I think
Well,
other I have family
I've heard that.
in Israel.
No, I think that was an omission rather than a deliberate act.
Can we have a discussion?
So I should admit to the brother, his family.
No,
Come on.
Can we discuss it afterwards?
We what?
Can we have a discussion afterwards?
I'd like to conclude now with En Keloheinu.
Discuss, but I found it absolutely pathetic.
I've heard that now, thank you. So I have heard that.
Okay.
I'm not disregarding your feelings. We are concluding with En Keloheinu, with the Ladino version of En Keloheinu today. And you should have a song sheet.
And I think the words are going up on screen as well, maybe. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kamalcheinu, ein Kamoshienu. Non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Keloheinu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kamalcheinu, mi Kamoshienu. Quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Lo haremos a nuestro Dios, lo haremos a nuestro Señor, lo haremos a nuestro Rey, lo haremos nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Bendicho nuestro Dios, bendicho nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Rey, bendicho nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tú es nuestro Dios, tú sos nuestro Señor, tú sos nuestro Rey, tú sos nuestro Salvador.
Rise for concluding benediction. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And to say, Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. And I think we do have a bit of